Tonight, a little girl left to slowly die. Now her neglectful mum's been jailed for her cruel and callous crimes. Another painstaking search over, with still no real clue as to what became of little Gus Lamont. Candidate chaos for the Liberals. One cut loose over his controversial podcast comments. And a party power brokers weighed in. More oil depots and tankers hit in the Middle East as the government moves to add 100 million extra litres a month to our supply. And we have developing footy news as Port Adelaide and the Crows make their final selection calls for round one.
This is Adelaide's 9 News with Brenton Ragless.
Good evening. A meth-addled mother has been jailed for almost 2 decades over one of the worst cases of criminal neglect this state has ever seen. So malnourished, her daughter Charlie died at the age of 6. The woman meant to protect her today told she failed as a mother.
Charlie Nowlan's bright smile hid a dark truth. Her 6 short years filled not with happiness, but horrific neglect at the hands of her meth-addicted mother, Crystal Hanley. She and her 6 children lived inside this squalid Manopara home. It's also where Charlie would die. Severely malnourished, her body collapsed and her heart gave way in 2022. Weighing just 18 kilograms, she was wearing a nappy and was infested with lice. She died without her birth ever being registered. Charlie never had a Medicare number, never saw a dentist and was never enrolled in school. The judge telling Hanley she failed as a mother on the most fundamental level, jailing her for 17 years. The warning signs were plainly there. In the weeks before her death, Charlie's legs were so swollen she couldn't walk, but her mother ridiculed her condition in calls with Charlie's dad.
Now she won't walk. No, get beyond joking. She's got cankles and everything.
Those cankles, a sign her body was shutting down in front of her mother's eyes. Still, Hanley repeatedly lied about getting her medical help.
Have you taken it to the doctors?
Yeah.
Instead, she'd shown what the court heard was a callous disregard for her daughter's deteriorating condition, refusing help from family, friends, neighbours and authorities. The details of this case are so horrific. The judge adjourned at regular intervals throughout the hearing to give the packed courtroom a break. Hanley must serve at least 12 years before she can apply for release in mid-2037. But well beyond that, the judge said, you'll have to live for the rest of your life with the knowledge of the devastation that you've caused to all of your children. Beth Excel, 9 News.
The mysterious disappearance of little Gus Lamont deepens tonight as detectives conclude yet another search in the state's mid-north. Police reporter Samantha Hogan has been in Yunta following the story. Sam, investigators didn't locate any evidence.
No, they didn't, Brenton. Today, officers were back at the place where this investigation first began at Oak Park Station. And Gus's family were nowhere to be seen as detectives swept the remote homestead. Police moving through sheds and outbuildings, carefully searching for anything that might explain how the 4-year-old vanished without a trace in September. Over the past 2 days, a special task force has examined a number of areas both on and around the property, some previously searched, others investigated for the first time. A major focus of this effort has been on the recent flooding in the region, detectives investigating whether the rains may have shifted soil, potentially exposing clues. But as this search finishes up today, they're still without answers. The last time police were at Oak Park in February, Gus's grandmother, Josie Murray, was arrested, charged with a firearms offence unrelated to the little boy's case. We know police have a suspect, someone who was living at the property with Gus at the time he vanished. Investigators stress, though, that that person is neither of his parents. Solving this case remains a top priority for police, and they say that they haven't ruled out returning here in the coming weeks. Brenton.
Samantha Hogan, thank you. A Liberal candidate has been sensationally dumped just 9 days from the state election after more controversial comments emerged of him criticising Islam and a ban on Nazi salutes. The party's executive confirming he was asked to step down, a decision which incited another senior Liberal into a public tirade.
Carsten Woodhouse was thrust into the spotlight for what was labelled extreme comments, and today more surfaced.
You have to understand why Islam is poisonous and why it's wrong.
The now former Liberal candidate for the northern suburbs seat of Right was scrutinised yesterday after videos emerged of him questioning the reality of same-sex marriage and linking homosexuality with demonic realms. But further comments revealed today are at odds with Liberal policy.
If something can be interpreted as a Nazi salute, there's a minimum 1 year and a maximum 7-year sentence just for that. Which is crazy.
Ashton Hearn previously said she didn't agree with the comments made by Mr Woodhouse, but defended his right to have an opinion.
I stood here yesterday and I made myself clear that I did not support the comments made by a particular candidate. That remains true today.
But today, Mr Woodhouse was given the axe, asked to stand down by the party's executive, and while he agreed to withdraw, he stands by what he said. The decision stirring up a federal heavyweight.
If this guy is disendorsed or if he feels compelled to leave, we might as well shut the doors on this election with 1 week to go.
Federal Senator Alex Antic later saying he was disappointed in Mr Woodhouse's disendorsement, Labor declaring internal chaos in the Liberal camp, standing outside the party's HQ to make its case.
And they have now lurched from shambolic to open warfare.
Mr Woodhouse remains connected with the party. He is an employee at Liberal headquarters. Ashton Hearn confirming today she expects him to see out the rest of his contract there. Now, ballot papers have already been printed and Carsten Woodhouse's name will still feature there under the Liberal banner. But Brenton, if he's elected without that endorsement, he'll sit as an independent.
All right, thank you, Gus. South Australian diesel prices have hit a record high, with some stations in the city selling for almost $2.58 a litre. That's higher than the average, which is now 16 cents more expensive than the previous record set back in October of 2022. And those prices aren't expected to fall again anytime soon.
We don't see any immediate relief in sight for diesel, which means that for the next couple of weeks we would expect to see prices at these levels or higher.
The high prices are a particular problem for South Australia's remote regions. Prices have spiked almost 50% since the Iran war began. And as oil depots explode and tankers burn thousands of kilometres away in the Middle East, our federal government today took drastic steps to secure our fuel supplies at home. Amid panic buying and shortages, 100 million litres of extra petrol is being freed up by lowering its quality.
An oil crisis tonight fueling only fears. This strike believed to be from an Iranian drone, igniting a major fuel storage tank in Oman. In Iraqi waters, 2 oil tankers up in flames. Tonight, 3 more ships damaged in the Strait of Hormuz. The world watching and forced to wait.
Can the Prime Minister guarantee that Australia will not run out of fuel?
We're working with industry, we're working with the NFF, we're making sure that we put in place all the appropriate measures to ensure that there is fuel security in this country.
The Strait of Hormuz tonight at a standstill. 20% of global oil should be flowing through the vital lane. Instead, Iranian oil flows have increased. In response, the International Energy Agency releasing 400 million barrels of emergency crude.
The largest ever release of emergency oil stocks in our agency's history.
Which will substantially reduce the oil prices as we end this threat to America and this threat to the world.
Australia is a signatory but won't send oil offshore. The government instead lowering the accepted sulphur standard in fuel coming from the Ampol refinery in Brisbane back to 2025 levels. That fuel usually sent for export.
This will see 100 million litres of fuel extra flow in Australia a month.
But the war and oil squeeze continues as America eyes a small island holding 90% of Iran's export oil. An Iranian spokesperson warning get ready for the oil barrel to be at $200. It's drastically higher than this week's surge that took prices to nearly $120 a barrel on Monday before settling tonight at $98. That should mean prices fall here.
I think there have been some suspicious price rises. It's for the ACCC to determine that. And if anyone's doing the wrong thing, they'll be hit with bigger fines.
The longer the war, the larger the risk. Tonight, state governments already finalising plans to prioritise things like hospitals and emergency services if required.
We're better prepared than we otherwise would have been, but we don't know what the future holds.
Charles Croucher, 9 News.
Despite the conflict in the Middle East intensifying, US President Donald Trump is insisting the war is already won. It comes as his administration is blamed for a deadly strike on a school caused by outdated military intelligence.
America flexing its military might, releasing footage showing Iran's air capabilities being targeted. But it's on the ground where residents are picking up the pieces. Rescue crews combed through rubble in Tehran after being pounded by US and Israeli bombs. This man says this area is residential and there are no military installations here. Thousands have also lined the streets to mourn officials killed. As details emerge about the new Supreme Leader's injuries, he hasn't been seen since before the war. Mushtaba Hamani reportedly has a broken foot and facial lacerations.
You know, you never like to say too early you won. We won. We won the bet. In the first hour, it was over. We don't want to leave early, do we, huh? We got to finish the job, right?
But tonight there are reports outdated US intelligence is possibly to blame for a strike that killed 168 children and 14 teachers at an Iranian school.
A new report says the military investigation has found it was the United States that struck the school.
I don't know about
Hezbollah and Iran firing 100 rockets at northern Israel. The IDF continuing to hit Beirut hard. Authorities say in Lebanon, more than 600 people have been killed and 800,000 displaced. Last year, the war with Iran lasted 12 days. This conflict is already stretching longer. Leaders adamant there'll be no slowing down in their fight.
Well, I think the Australian leadership understood that this is a war which has an enormous impact on the future of the region.
Ori from Melbourne has called Israel home for the past decade. Now he's serving as an IDF soldier.
I've got a responsibility for my people, responsibility for my neighbours, and I've chosen to do this.
In Israel, Mimi Becker, 9 News.
Despite the US saying the war will end soon, its own intelligence reports that Iran's leadership capability is still strong and at no risk of toppling anytime soon. That's despite repeated bombardment from Israel and the US for nearly 2 weeks now. Finding an end to this war will be complex, with Iran calling for reparations and also asking for international security guarantees to try and stop any future attacks. Brenton?
Mimi Becker, thank you. Meanwhile, the FBI has issued a warning to officials in California. Iran is planning a drone strike on American soil. US correspondent Reid Butler filed this report from Los Angeles.
America is waging a war 12,000 kilometres away, but tonight it's been revealed there was a threat right here in California. Police have boosted patrols at popular tourist destinations, at events and also at places of worship after the FBI warned that Iran could retaliate by firing drones off vessels off the west coast. This memo was sent in the days before the Pentagon gave the green light for the first strikes in Iran. Officials say there is no imminent threat, but the warning alone serves as a reminder that the impacts of this war spread far.
And there were tears of relief as the first flight from Doha to Melbourne in 11 days touched down this morning. 160 stranded Australians were on board, with many forced to take a long journey to get home.
As soon as it all sort of started, I just wanted to get out straight away. 16-hour bus ride to Riyadh, Riyadh to Jeddah, Jeddah to KL, and KL back to Melbourne. So I'm very grateful to be back here.
I'm very relieved he's home. I can sleep tonight.
The flight was initially delayed on the tarmac in Qatar after a missile alert was issued nearby. The shock resignation of a former spy boss has plunged the Bondi Royal Commission into turmoil. Dennis Richardson walking away from the $5,500 a day job, saying he was overpaid and underutilised.
Former spy boss Dennis Richardson was the Prime Minister's first pick to investigate intelligence gaps in the lead-up to the Bondi massacre.
This is the most experienced person.
But when Anthony Albanese relented to pressure to hold a Royal Commission, Mr Richardson's role was subsumed by Virginia Bell's inquiry.
I was a fifth wheel and I was surplus to requirements. It became, in my view, largely a research role.
One for which he was being paid $5,500 a day.
I was being overpaid for what I was doing.
But with his resignation goes the expertise as a former boss of ASIO and the Defence Department.
In essence, your expertise was being sidelined.
It wasn't being sidelined, but I don't think it was being effectively utilised.
I do seriously worry that the credibility of the Royal Commission has been fatally damaged.
Multiple sources have told 9 News that the sometimes poisonous relationship between the New South Wales and federal police is of interest to the Royal Commission. Dysfunction or distrust seemingly on display when the New South Wales Premier last year declared explosives found in a caravan at Dural a
potential mass casualty event.
When the AFP says it knew almost immediately that it was instead a
fabricated terrorist plot, essentially a criminal con job.
How important is it for state and federal police forces to have strong cooperation?
Essential, and by and large they do.
Virginia Bell will deliver her initial assessment by the end of April. Andrew Probyn, 9 News.
3 people have been arrested soon after a convenience store robbery in Harley Street, where staff say a trio demanded and ran off with cash at around 11:30 last night, but not before allegedly assaulting a staff member. A 20-year-old and 2 teens are all now facing charges. Regional shopping centres will see police weapon searches like the ones that have been rolled out in centres across Adelaide. The extended police powers, which allow random checks, are now in place at shopping spots in Port Augusta, Whyalla and Mount Gambier. The first 3 months here in Adelaide, 19 knives were uncovered and police say centres will keep being added. 5 deaths within a week on South Australian roads has prompted a desperate plea for drivers to stay safe. Police revealing that in at least 2 of those deaths, not wearing a seatbelt played a role.
Currently 20 for the year, 5 in the last week. These are not just numbers, these are not just people, these are mothers, fathers, children.
The road toll has now climbed to 20. Tom Rehn has sport coming up a little bit later on. It's footy season, and so the teams are in.
They certainly are. Footy's back, and they are back in a big way, Brenton. And at Alberton, we get a first-hand look at the moment. Power star Zach Butters revealed his best mate would finally fulfil an AFL dream at age 25. A big-name Crows recruit tells us how he'll be unleashed in his club debut against Collingwood. Sam Kerr's ominous warning as the Matildas prepare to take on North Korea. That and so much more coming up shortly. Raggy.
Thank you, Rennie. See you soon. A woman, her son and their dog plucked from their car just in the nick of time. Ahead, a very risky rescue. A hero helicopter hovers as the Territory's flood emergency takes a turn. Plus, some of the first Australian jobs tumble. Hundreds of workers being replaced by AI. And the vulnerable video from Robert Irwin as he opens up about life without his dad. As floodwaters rage across northern Australia, there's been tragedy and triumph. The weather emergency claiming 2 lives, but also an incredible rescue. A mother and son saved by the skill of a pilot and the bravery of police.
A chopper and pilot used to mustering cattle called in for a higher purpose. In violent floodwaters outside Katherine, a mother and son cling to a 4-wheel drive, their hope resting with 2 men and a flying machine. Bush pilot John Armstrong at the controls, he expertly rests the chopper's skid on the car's roof. And NT police officer Ben Parfitt guides the woman on board and away.
Everything just seemed to align in this case. The skill of the helicopter pilot, the ability for the smaller helicopter to get closer to the trees.
We don't see the son being saved, but there's more help required. A 50-kilogram German Shepherd, a lucky last survivor, a brave copper carrying him on board a perfectly hovering helicopter.
Yeah, that's not that hard, eh? If you take the river out of the picture, it's just like landing a chopper anywhere.
The flood emergency in the Northern Territory and Queensland has had heroes, but also heartbreak. The bodies of 2 Chinese backpackers discovered in a submerged car in floodwaters near Gympie.
We have been told that the families are coming to Australia and we'll assist them in every way that we possibly can.
For communities hit hard, the big clean-up begins. In Bundaberg, after the flood, comes the mud.
A few tears, but you know, it has been a big week.
Can you believe we were going through here on a boat yesterday?
Just yesterday, we were just here.
The clean-up job ahead for people like Robert is really overwhelming. There is so much that needs to be done, but they've been here before. And if there's one thing Bundaberg locals know how to do, it's how to handle trying times with good humour. A new flood now written into the history books for this resilient city. In Bundaberg, Jessica Millward, 9 News.
The owner of a Queensland charter aviation company has been charged after allegedly organising a black flight to smuggle 2 wanted Sydney men to Indonesia late last year. The man was arrested by Australian Federal Police yesterday at his home.
We allege he coordinated a network of connected charter flights on different planes and with different companies over a week to smuggle the fugitives from New South Wales to North Queensland and then on to Indonesia.
The 2 pilots and the pair of alleged Australian fugitives are currently in Indonesian immigration detention. The multi-billionaire boss of tech giant Atlassian has cut 1,600 jobs, saying the Aussie-born company has succumbed to the rise of AI. Mike Cannon-Brookes making the announcement in a video message before telling staff to check their email.
Mike Cannon-Brookes has long lived in the fast lane, his own private jet, luxury mansions and backer of an F1 racing team. But now the multi-billionaire has lost his shine.
This is a very tough day.
No doubt, as you're about to sack 1,600 people, 10% of your staff.
I am deeply sorry for the disruption this creates in your life.
Atlassian, an Australian-American software company, grew into a tech giant. Cannon-Brookes and partner Scott Farquhar soaring up the rich list, offering tips along the way.
The biggest problem the government has at the moment is it doesn't understand technology broadly.
But it was technology which outsmarted them, succumbing to the AI revolution and watching their share price tank, down 66% in the last year.
The key stumbling block is that a lot of vendors are overestimating how much return they can get from this technology and underestimating how expensive this stuff is to run over time.
The job cuts were not only brutal but swift. At 8:15 this morning, Mike Cannon-Brookes released a video blog to staff informing them that there would be job cuts. He said then in the next 20 minutes, those who will be impacted will receive an email confirming that they no longer had a job. Of the 1,600 to go, nearly 500 of the jobs are in Australia, joining a growing tech unemployment queue. WiseTech recently shed 2,000 employees, almost 30% of its staff, and Afterpay owners laying off 4,000, nearly 40% of its workforce.
Unfortunately, I expect other companies in the sector, much-loved companies like Canva and Xero, to be making similar announcements.
As for Atlassian, the building of its futuristic high-rise headquarters in Sydney goes on. A new beginning after the darkest of days.
It's an incredibly hard decision, but I still believe that it's the right one.
Damien Ryan, 9 News.
Robert Irwin was just 2 years old when his adored dad Steve died. And 20 years later, the grief is still deep. The wildlife warrior and TV personality has told CNN's Anderson Cooper the connection is strongest when he's alone in nature.
Sometimes one of the nicest things is to just sit, I let it all sort of pour out, and it feels like I'm kind of letting him in.
Robert also praised his mum Terry, calling her unbelievable. Well, a mild day across Adelaide today, but Jessica Braithwaite, things are warming up just in time for the weekend.
They are actually. It's not bad timing, Brenton. So today we started out certainly on the cloudy side around Adelaide. It was feeling a bit grey and a bit overcast. Temperature-wise on the milder side there with that top of just under 23 degrees. In fact, right now it's already pulled back to 17.5 degrees in the city. So definitely one of the cooler days of the week. But we do have a high pressure system moving on in. So from tomorrow, you're just going to notice things
quite gently at first, step by step, taking small marks up with the temperatures there. So by the weekend, we're going to be back into the high 20s and even around that 30-degree mark. So, Brenton, you can start making your plans for the weekend. I'll have the forecast soon.
Sounds perfect. Thanks, Jessica. A rat poison murder attempt. An Australian man tells his story to a court as his ex-girlfriend goes on trial, accused of trying to kill him in Taiwan. Plus, a trail of destruction as 4 tornadoes wreak havoc in the US. And Prince William's poignant and powerful video message for Australia's Navy. Australian student at the centre of a blockbuster global court case has given evidence for the first time. His ex-girlfriend is accused of trying to kill him multiple times using rat poison.
Loaded into an ambulance, bound for an emergency flight back to Australia. This is the last time exchange student Alex Shorey was in Taiwan. 3 years on, he's made his return to a media frenzy. Coming face to face with his ex-girlfriend Yang Qinping in a Taipei courthouse. She's on trial, accused of trying to kill him using rat poison, not once, but 3 times. According to local media, the court heard the pair started dating in 2023, connecting online while Alex was on exchange. But come March, he was keen to return home. That allegedly angering Yang, who's then accused of lacing Alex's juice with rat poison, landing him in hospital for the first time. His next admission in April to intensive care, allegedly poisoned using another beverage. The next month, Alex's mum claims she found an empty container of rat poison in Yang's cupboard. Days later, a gravely ill Alex was medevaced to Brisbane.
Returning to Australia this week also saved Alex's life.
The court heard Yang had allegedly become controlling during the relationship, Alex claiming she took away his passport, making it difficult for him to access money. Outside court, a surprise appearance from the brother of Yang's late husband, who died months before she met Alex. A police investigation into his mysterious death dropped due to a lack of evidence.
My brother's murder has been covered up 3 times.
Yang's trial continues. Caitlin Smith, 9 News.
2 are dead in the US state of Illinois after at least 4 tornadoes levelled buildings and damaged vehicles. Some areas have been decimated, with 1 tornado carving a path of destruction spanning more than 1.5 kilometres. The threat isn't over yet, with another round of rain, hail and strong winds forecast. A frosty moment at the Paralympic Winter Games is under investigation after Germany's athletes staged a protest against Russia. The pair had won silver in the women's sprint classic vision impaired event, turning their backs as the national anthem played and refusing to remove their hats. Both athletes voicing concern over Russia's inclusion as the war in Ukraine rages on. Prince William has sent a heartfelt message to Australia's Navy as it celebrates its 125th anniversary this month. The future King recognising the force's outstanding service and defence of Commonwealth partners during the 2 world wars.
We thank those who continue their spirit of service today. I'm proud that UK and Australian sailors and submariners are celebrating these anniversaries together.
The Royals' message comes as the British submarine HMS Anson briefly visited under the AUKUS agreement, a key milestone for the project. And Prince Harry will be a keynote speaker for a major workplace mental health summit in Melbourne next month. The Duke of Sussex will join Yelena Dockett discussing the national burnout crisis. The rare visit comes with a royal price tag. Tickets are nearly $2,000 each, supporting Lifeline. Successfully mending a broken heart. Coming up in 9 News, the world-first medical marvel that's giving dying Australians new hope. Bank on it. Australia's Big Four almost certain rates will rise. That's in Chris Kohler's finance report right after the break. Plus, John Farnham gets the band back together. The details on his new tribute concert next. Another major bank now expects the Reserve to raise interest rates at next week's meeting. Finance editor Chris Kohler has the details.
One after another, economists are changing their predictions. CBA and ANZ now agree with Westpac and NAB. They all think the Reserve Bank will hike interest rates next week and again in May. Higher oil prices will flow through to inflation, they say, and the central bank will move to tackle it. One of the impacts of predicted rate rises is that our currency has been jumping. It might be a difficult time to travel, but Australians overseas have a dollar in their hand that is at its highest level against the Japanese yen since 1990. It's also at its strongest level against the New Zealand dollar since 2013, since 2024 against the euro and pound, and it's at a 4-year high against the US dollar too. Worth knowing if you're planning a trip. The ASX fell sharply today, losing about $40 billion in value. Once again, energy was the only sector in positive territory. No surprise when you see the oil price surged once again, now just a fraction below $100 a barrel.
Thank you, Chris. An innovation to fix failing hearts is being tested on Australian patients. The world-first trial is providing hope when there are no other ways left to treat the severe disease.
A smile and a spring in his step. 81-year-old James Norris is the first patient in the world to have this device inserted in his heart as part of a clinical trial.
I'm just really grateful that I was chosen to.
He had no options. He had, his heart had become far more enlarged than the 2 years prior when we first assessed him. What the science tells us about this is that, he was going to die from heart failure at some point.
The underlying cause affects up to 8% of elderly Australians. The tricuspid valve on the right side of the heart is leaking badly. The jet-like flame is actually blood pumping backwards. While clips can be used on the leaflets to close the leak, that option wasn't feasible for James, the defect too large.
So despite these advances like putting clips on the valve, we still are left with a lot of patients who have no treatment.
I was trying to do the garden, trim hedges or things like that. I'd get tired fairly quickly. And
doctors performed keyhole surgery at Macquarie University Hospital, implanting the new device through the groin to the heart. The nickel titanium mesh and saline-filled balloon act as a spacer to block the backflow of blood.
You inflate saline into this balloon, which is the device, and you see as it becomes larger the effect on the leak.
9 patients around the world have now been fitted with the device, including 3 from Australia, who've made a remarkable recovery. 83-year-old Marie Guerin is one of them.
Her heart wasn't getting enough blood forward. She'd have kidney failure and she would end up on multiple infusions in coronary care. Today, Marie is living back on her own at home. She's cooking. She's even going out to the garden.
So too James, back in the garden and climbing stairs without losing his breath. As for his new permanent implant...
Can't feel a thing except that I know I'm much better.
Gabriella Rogers, 9 News.
Phenomenal development. John Farnham's music will blast through the speakers for a special concert tomorrow night, but it will be his reunited band in the spotlight as the national treasure continues his cancer battle.
The band is back together. The Farnham Band, albeit without the main man, John Farnham. When was the last time you spoke with him?
A couple of months ago about this show, and he's very excited about this show. He's given us his blessings.
Given that most of these band members have been with John for more than 30 years, emotions were running high during final rehearsals today, none more so than for Farnham's son, James.
It was good walking in and seeing the band and hearing everything, but once you sort of realised Dad wasn't going to walk in, you could feel the big space was empty, but it was really good to see everyone again.
James and his brother Rob have been rocks for their mum and dad throughout John's cancer ordeal.
Can I ask, how's your dad going?
Yeah, Dad's doing real well. Yeah, he's living life to the fullest and loving his grandson, and yeah, he's doing really well.
Has Jet been the best medicine for him?
Yeah, definitely. I think for him and Mum, yeah, they're both loving him. They can't stop calling and coming over, so definitely a good medicine for Dad.
Among the artists who'll be taking to the stage for tomorrow night's tribute concert at the Myer Music Bowl, Jack Jones. On tour years back, Farnham asked Jones to sing Burn For You with him, but through sheer nerves, Jones declined.
I passed that opportunity up, and ever since then, I've been trying to kind of correct history.
Tomorrow night's concert is not only a nod to Farnham, but another shot in the fight against head and neck cancer.
John should be incredibly proud of helping us to shine a spotlight on this cancer. It's often diagnosed late, and it can have a significant, lifelong impact.
Tickets are still available for tomorrow night's concert, and while a bumper crowd is expected, all thoughts will be with one bloke who can't be there.
He doesn't do too much into the music because he kind of gets upset and thinks, about it all.
Tony Jones, 9 News.
I'd love to be there. Wouldn't it be great?
Whispering Jack. Nothing like his music. It's unreal.
Now, Rennie, the Crows have got a new list boss. Tell us about that.
Well, they do, and he's someone who comes with a rich history of success. Raggy, we'll have more on that story next as the Crows make a huge call on a key midfielder just weeks after major surgery. Oh, Lord, what will the Power do with Ollie and Jack Lukosius ahead of Sunday's clash against North Melbourne? And a South Aussie teen aces her Australian Open debut at Kooyonga. Hello again. After being made to wait an extra week, the 2026 season is finally getting underway for the Crows and the Power. The teams are in and there's no shortage of intriguing calls. So let's get straight to Braden Ingram. Braden, starting with the Power, there's a few debutants.
Rennie, headlined by 25-year-old mature age midfielder Jack Watkins, who gets his chance while Ollie Wines is suspended. North Melbourne's former VFL captain learning of his debut against his old side from his best mate Zach Butters. What a moment. Ex-Giant Jacob Ware and ex-Blue Corey Durden will also make their maiden appearance in Power Teal, while Todd Marshall plays his first game in almost 550 days. It is an extended squad to take on the Roos. Let's have a look at it for the match on Sunday. Asava Radigalea given the nod over youngster Harry Ram in defence, while Ollie Lord and Jack Lukosius are fighting it out for the one spot up forward, although Lord was in the A team during match sim today. Coach Josh Carr revealing he'll coach from the bench to start the season.
Probably how I've always done it. When I was coaching North Adelaide, I was down on the bench, and I feel comfortable being down there, and I also feel comfortable with what's up in the box with the assistant coaches, with how they work together.
Well, let's switch over to the Crows, where Jake Saligo has been cleared to take on Collingwood little more than a fortnight after undergoing a heart procedure. Riley Thilthorpe is locked in at centre-half forward after casting aside his back complaint. Jordan Butts taking up residency at full-back. As for their star recruit, Calamar Chi, well, his boyhood dreams become reality as of Saturday night.
Home is where the heart is, so that's why after more than a decade in the AFL, Calamar Chi is an Adelaide Crow.
I followed the Crows when I was a young boy, so it's one of the first Guernseys that I ever got, so to be able to put that on this weekend and at the MCG as well is really exciting.
It was touch and go for a moment though, recovering from a hamstring strain just in time, with the club backing the 28-year-old to make the fitness call himself.
Full confidence, yeah. I've ticked off everything that I needed to tick off. I know my body best, and I think it's great to be able to have those honest conversations with the doctors and high performance team.
Archie brings something to Westlakes that very few possess, premiership success, and it's that experience that the club will lean on. But preparing to suit up for a third team, he admits there's been plenty of adversity.
I probably started at the Gold Coast and put a lot of pressure on myself to perform as a high draft pick, and then got up to Brisbane and probably released the shackles a little bit and started to play some instinctive footy.
His versatility in class giving Matthew Nicks an extra weapon in his arsenal.
It's just having an impact forward, getting at the feet of the big boys, but also having the ability to take a mark, have the opportunity to go up on the wing and help the boys in the midfield too and connect the play.
Archie proving to be former list boss Justin Reed's final addition to the club, with four-time premiership hawk Jared Roughead officially appointed as his successor to be based in Melbourne. Braden Ingram, 9 News.
Well, a lingering calf injury will rule Pies captain Darcy Moore out of the grudge match. The defender unable to pass a fitness test today. Coach Craig McRae now left wondering how to counter a towering Crows forward line.
A lot of threats down there, isn't there? They've got three big targets and we'll have to have a plan accordingly. We survived last week without him, and we'll have to do something similar this week.
The club, though, is hopeful for Jamie Elliott will play. That's despite missing today's session due to some illness. Well, a few weeks ago, we introduced you to South Aussie golfing young gun Regan Denton, whose star rose even further today after acing her Australian Open debut at Kooyonga. The 18-year-old with this hole-in-one on the par 3 7th.
Shot. Hey! Well done.
How good is that? No such joy, though, for fellow Aussie Steph Kyriakou, who endured a horror opening round, which included 2 quadruple bogeys. World number 9, though, Hannah Green, better placed at 2 under, just 4 shots off the lead, and that is held by Welsh woman Darcy Harry. In she goes for a nice eagle there. Well, new Thunderbirds co-captain Shamira Sterling-Humphrey is promising a rock-solid return when the Super Netball season gets underway this weekend. Back from maternity leave, her physical strength has skyrocketed since having a baby boy, almost doubling her squat personal best.
Probably use it to my advantage. Maybe the big shooters weren't able to shove me down to the floor this season. But yeah, well, if your body has pushed out a baby, then it must be so strong.
It's great to have her back. The T-Birds host the Swifts at the Entertainment Centre for that season opener on Saturday night. Can't wait. Well, Sam Kerr says the best of the Matildas is yet to come ahead of tomorrow's Asian Cup quarter-final clash against North Korea. It's being played in Perth.
We've been building ourselves up. I think every game we've got better, and hopefully that's the case for tomorrow. We can have our best performance of the tournament and go through, and I think it's a good sign that we haven't peaked too early.
In a blow for Australia, both Steph Catley and Hayley Raso will miss the match due to concussion. What about this? Bodo Glimt's magic run in the Champions League doesn't look like stopping in the round of 16. This is a tiny Norwegian club which is making its debut in the competition, and they've defeated Sporting Lisbon 3-0 in the first leg of their 2-leg playoff. Putting it beaten 3-0 by Real Madrid in Spain. Arsenal was the best of the English there as they try and turn things around next week for their return legs. The teams are in, Raggy.
How exciting.
A lot of excitement. Hopefully a couple of wins to get us going Saturday night and then Sunday for the Power.
I've never seen you run around the newsroom so busy as you did today. Very exciting.
Well, that was a nice illusion. I'm glad you said busy and not just not annoying or something like that.
And I reckon they'll both have a win on the weekend.
Yeah, yes, I'm with you. I like your confidence.
Thanks, Raggy.
Thanks, Raggy.
See you tomorrow.
Well, the cool and cloudy conditions are clearing just in time for the weekend. Jessica is back with the weather outlook next, but first to tomorrow's speed cameras.
Hi, it's Rue Ditz and Loz from Triple M Breakfast.
Turn us on tomorrow morning for the latest Adelaide news, traffic and weather.
And don't miss Adelaide's most listened to segment, The Rumour Mill.
On 104.7 Triple M.
Hello again. Well, I've got a pretty well-timed forecast for you today because we've had a couple of cloudy days, some milder temperatures, which is nice as well. But we do have lots of sun and some warming weather on the way for you, just in time for your Friday and into the weekend. So here we go. Today, it was definitely kind of overcast and a bit grey around Adelaide this morning. That kept a lid on temperatures. So 22.8 degrees was our top, and already now it's cooled back to around 17 degrees in the city. Last night we had that overnight low of around 13. There were just a couple of really light sprinkles through the hills. We're talking 0.2 of a millimetre. But temperatures didn't want to budge up there either. Mount Lofty only made 16 degrees today. But on the plains, we were in the 20s. Mawson Lakes got to 24. Elizabeth 23, and pretty much in the 20s through most of the north as well. Just with the winds from the south, that meant those temperatures couldn't rise all that much. Port Pirie got to 25, Port Lincoln made 20 degrees. There were a few little showers around the southeast, nothing really heavy, but those grey skies were there. Mount Gambier maxed out at 18 and Murray Bridge made 21. So on the charts, the reason things are kind of fining up a little bit is this high pressure system here that's moving on in, and as that moves across, it'll flick the winds around and start filtering a bit more warmth over South Australia. In the meantime, Melbourne's on the overcast side tomorrow with that top of 20. Sydney, maybe a little shower with 23, and Brisbane could see a bit of rain with 31 for the top there. But back to South Australia, we are looking quite warm and sunny with those winds coming from the southeast there. Port Augusta getting up to 28 degrees, Clare 22, Port Lincoln 22. So you can see lots of areas just taking a little baby step up with the temperatures for tomorrow. Murray Bridge up to 25, Renmark around the same mark there. So it's quite a pleasant end to the week. We do have the wind warnings out west in the far west and upper west, but on local waters, southeasterlies to around 20 knots. So for our suburbs tomorrow, again with the baby steps, with the temperatures up to 25 at Outer Harbour and Elizabeth, and in the city as well, landing in the mid-20s. But you can really see the temperatures warming over the weekend. We're up to 29 degrees on Saturday, up to 31 degrees on Sunday. You know, with the Fringe Festival and everything happening, Brenton, it's a cracking weekend in store.
Might even get a swim in, the outdoor water slides.
Yeah, get the boardies ready.
Before the season ends. Thanks so much, Jessica. Catch you. That's the bulletin for this Thursday. Thanks for joining us here on 9. A current affair is next with further news updates to follow. We hope you enjoy your evening here on 9. Good night.